Okay, so here we are.
Look who's here?
This is going to be the sort of the last time we're going to go to this old format. Next week I'm going to go back to the conversations.
Conversations with guests?
Yeah, with guests. And so this is going to be the last of Larry time for a bit.
The last Chris ranting.
Well, no, is that what the episode, is that what the show theme is? I don't even know what the format is anymore.
What's your beef?
What's my beef? Is this a Wendy's ad from like '84?
No, tonight's your
Walter Mondale.
What happened this week?
Oh.
Well, one thing happened this week. So.
Well, yeah, right. The big news this week is,
Rachel Maddow has got a quarantine for COVID.
That's right. I was about to do something like Prairie Home Companion. There was a pie baking contest down at the old lodge, and
that show is unbearable.
Grace Smith made her classic cherry pie, and it got a little burnt in the oven this week. And then little Billy came in. He bruised his ankle from playing baseball down at the tracks. I don't think, and this guy can make up anything he wants from this fake thing, like Timmy could fall down a well or something, and it's the most boring thing on earth.
He has no presence either. I guess he's got a radio voice, but if you've ever seen him, if you've ever seen it broadcast, he has no gravitas.
He looks like a duck.
Presence. He has no movement. It's just the voice coming out,
and
it's even less interesting.
But like,
and it's already not.
It's fiction that's like designed to be more boring than reality. Like
he's written it.
Like he opened up the last page of the newspaper and said, "Oh, this is way too exciting. Oh, let's try to find something," and like nothing ever happens.
That's why I can never remember the name of the show. Well, now you've
Prairie Home Companion.
I've just blocked it out completely. It's so dull. I've just completely can't even remember, and I can't remember that guy's name either.
It doesn't really matter.
He's not still doing it anymore.
No. He was fired for
being handsy, I think.
He was fired for doing some kind of handsy stuff at the NPR.
Yeah.
But I can just imagine what he'd be like. So, my lady, would you like to come back to my place and maybe we can work on a puzzle tonight? Like the most sort of.
It's already too exciting. There's an end to that.
I can put two chairs next to each other on the same side of the table, and then we can work in a puzzle together. No, his name is. I don't really remember.
I don't remember.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, good. Don't remember it.
That's right. And he was replaced by some other guy.
Oh, I haven't heard the other guy.
Right. No, he's actually not terrible, I think.
Yeah. Well, in comparison?
Well, yeah.
Or he's not terrible on his own?
No, he's not terrible in comparison.
Oh.
In the same way that I don't know who
curve.
I don't know who was after Hitler, but
right, it would have to have been better.
Right, like we don't know the Chancellor after. And so, wouldn't that be funny if like he was famous for some reason? Like nobody.
Was the guy after Hitler? Yeah, it turned out he was like a Steinway, or he was something. Oh, he invented the dirigible.
Yes, he would have never been elected if it weren't for that war.
That's right. And they were in the fraud at the ballot box.
That would be so funny to have that as a yeah. And like I voted for it, but he's dead. Like he can't survive. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Like one of his compatriots would serve. Anyway, so what we had this week was something that was at the same speed upon which all of us are doing things in life, right?
Yeah.
And that, the thing that used to take one day is now taking 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that includes how we select a president now.
Yeah, we count, yes.
How we count, right.
Election week.
Right.
And election Hanukkah. The 8 days of election.
And so if it's anything like my life, then I think the new president will be called sometime next March. Yeah.
You're not in any rush.
They're not in any rush, it looks like. Let's see. So it's a crazy week. I was expecting more stuff to happen now.
Yeah.
Like I was expecting, riots and flames.
I'm not sure if the entire town is boarded up, and I'm not sure if that's in case Trump called martial law, and then people rioted in the street because he was setting aside the votes and insisting he was dictator for life. Or they were worried about when Los Angeles celebrates, they, like the Lakers or the Dodgers, they turn over cars and light things on fire. So I guess it was figured that either way, there could be riots. I don't think it's going to be the Proud Boys coming into town, but to teach people a lesson. But it could be. Maybe there's that too. Maybe there's a third factor that maybe
I think it would be really funny if
will come in and.
I think it would be really funny if some of the stores have like really good insurance,
yeah.
and they don't board the stuff up at all. They put the most expensive things right in front, right near the window.
Well, no one's selling anything, so they might
put the lights down.
Let it get stolen. Wouldn't it be funny if what was the name of that Apple store?
Melrose Mac.
Melrose Mac. If they've just finished, the paint is just dried, and here we go again.
Right.
Open for business. Oh no.
Oh yeah, it's Black Friday came early this year.
I think we should go down. In fact, I think we should go down and destroy. It opens tomorrow.
Bottega Louis.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think we should take some sledgehammers to that marble that took 7 years to put in.
Right. Just I don't know. I'm always sort of surprised by how unsophisticated these rioters are.
Yeah.
Like when I look at people from other countries, they seem to have weapons and these flaming bottles.
These are opportunists.
Explosives.
These are opportunists. The looters are opportunists. They weren't really going to blow things up. They were going to steal stuff and make with that opportunity. They are not anarchists. They're thieves.
It's true. But I'm just saying in general, like if you look at like a Chilean thing, you'll see like and they do like. They seem to actually be like an organized coalition.
Yeah.
Where they do like, military formations and stuff. And you're like...
Well, it was pretty good for that riot day when the cars would pull up and they'd wait for the next one. And then they'd wait for the next one to steal from the sneaker store and from Melrose Mac.
Yeah,
they were pretty good waiting online for their parking space.
It was pretty good. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, people were fairly organized. Yeah. It's nice to see people come together, to see.
None of those computers worked, They stole all those computers and then Apple just bricked them. They were never...
Not necessarily true. You could do stuff with them.
Well, if you could do stuff with them, but the stuff that the people that stole them, might as well just throw them out. Let's see what else happened this week, as if that's enough. That's enough. Did you vote? Did you ultimately vote?
Yes, I did a few times. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good.
No, I checked the registrar, and it took me a little bit over 2 weeks to fill out that ballot.
Yeah.
I was really lazy this year. Usually, I do it within like 3 or 4 days just to get it over with. But it says like it was mailed here and we received it on here.
Oh.
And it was. I don't know if you've ever checked that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And you can also set up that they email you when they get it, and then they email you again when they. There's received and accepted. So
do you think I look at email?
Maybe not. It's so retro.
Yeah, seriously.
Maybe they should text you.
Who looks at email?
Here's a surprise, and you may not know this because you don't actually live in West Hollywood. The two longtime 35-year West Hollywood councilmen, the incumbents, were both voted out, and that's never happened before. And the reason it hasn't is because prior to pushing the election to the main election day, they used to have it in March.
Oh, a special one, right.
And no one would go. 2,000 people would vote.
Right.
Now, because people were going to president, and all the incumbents were against moving the election day to regular election day because they knew people would show up. And that's what happened this time. And both of them were voted out. But bigly. Both of them, John Duran's out 3-1. He was outvoted.
I know nothing about this.
Yeah.
Is this person like thoroughly incompetent?
No.
Why was he
I
disliked
think
so
after
much?
35 years.
Oh.
Well, there was also a sexual harassment, except it barely made the news. Sexual harassment charge against him, and the city paid it off.
Oh, the second part is bad.
Yeah.
But like the first part, I've got this very politically incorrect theory.
Yeah.
Sorry, camera. That sexual harassment basically comes from it's a statement about how attractive the person thinks you are, right? Is that like if nobody would say like this hot stud muffin sexually harassed me, this dreamboat.
It was something along there. They're all gay, so it was all
What?
men. So it was all men, and it was something along the lines of offering someone a city job if, or maybe they would lose their job if they didn't. It was something like that. Mm-hmm. But no one knew about it. I knew about it because in everybody's business, but it didn't make major news. And it was a big payoff, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Berlusconi had these in Italy.
Yeah,
and it was always a joke that, when you look at the Berlusconi Senate, it was all these supermodel women.
Yeah.
Right? And it would be sort of funny, like you could sort of tell what their sexual proclivities is. Like you walk into City Hall and you see like a bunch of 25-year-old Filipinos. You'll be like, oh, I see what he likes.
Some of them are rough trade.
Yeah, and then you see like some otters, some to the side. And I go, okay, all right, it's fine.
That's okay in Italy, but apparently we draw the line in West Hollywood. But no incumbent has ever been voted out before in the 35-year history of the city of West Hollywood. And this time, both of them were. So it's okay. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know who the people that were elected were. I knew the two guys that are voted out, but I don't know who the two voted in are.
As far as L.A. County goes, I think that...
It's all women. This board of supervisors.
Well, I'm not just talking about that. I'm saying that just in general, I think that the people that were looking for change, you can call them progressives or whatever, but let's just call them the changees, if you will. Basically, got what they wanted down the board. Yeah. There was this very sort of Nitya was running for the city, and she was for Bernie. Bernie endorsement. And David Rue was the old city councilman, and so she defeated. And then there was the Jackie Lacey, who was the district attorney. She was out. Then there was another black woman who won. What's her name?
But all of the supervisors, all the progressives won. All the people Bernie supported won.
Well,
all the way across the city.
But I'm not going to say Bernie supported. I'm going to, that's not.
But I mean, that just identifies their politics.
No, I would say that it's much more. It's the people who wanted to steer the ship in a different direction. Yeah, and that happens to be in this single direction because of where we are, but I don't think that that's...
Yeah. But the interesting thing is the people they replaced...
More of a coincidence.
Were what?
I think it's more of a coincidence.
Yeah, we're all... Right, okay. But we're all Democrats already, and these are further to the left Democrats. The people, David Ryu, how do you pronounce his name?
Ryu? I don't know.
He's already a Democrat, but he was replaced by someone further to the left. Same thing with Jackie.
See, I don't think that that's the right kind of way of looking at it. Mm-hmm. I don't think that you could say further. To the left, I think, is also an improper phrase.
More progressive? Is that the term you would use?
You could say somebody on the left.
On the left.
Because I don't think that...
you don't think David Rue was...
I don't buy the continuum theory between liberal and leftism. I don't think that they're related.
And there was Jackie Lacey, even though she's black, became known as being a racist. She was stuck with that label.
Right.
And but my problem with George Gascon was I thought he was a bit of a carpetbagger. He quit his job as the San Francisco district attorney.
Right, and so
what
I heard is as Gascon is not necessarily a great candidate.
Yeah.
But Jackie Lacey has just done so many things that are unforgivable, supposedly, that she no longer deserves the job. Yeah. And so a sack of potatoes should win. It doesn't really matter. Anybody.
Well, we have that in the White House. Yeah.
Yes, black people can certainly be racist. Yeah. Anybody can be racist because racism is about the sort of cultural structures that build a society and what the relationship is and how those dynamics work. It's not like, screaming epitaphs into your glove box when you get into the car, right? That's not what racism is. It absolutely has nothing to do with it.
More insidious than that.
It's
less obvious.
It's more banal, right?
Yeah.
It's the idea of redlining. It's the idea of maybe putting the waste facility near the minority community.
Making it harder for the minority community to do anything.
Right, because
whether it's to be educated or to vote.
Because you don't think that they have because you think that like the people in Brentwood are more talented and precious and smarter and more dignified than the people down in Watts, right? And you think, well, the people down there, they don't really have any good jobs, and who cares about that is what racism is. It's that you see a hierarchy between these two populations, and then when people would say, well, it's true, there is a hierarchy, and I say, yes, that's what the ism means. If I said, what is socialism, or capitalism, right? It's somebody who thinks about capital, right? And that's what they want to do. And socialism is people that think about society, right? And so if you think that there's like a hierarchy of races, if you think that that's a scientifically valid theory and a correct way of looking at the world, then that is racial theory. That's called racism, right? That's what the word means.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're an evil bad man. It has a very clear and connotative meaning. It means something. And so, when I think that we need a different word for it, because people just, they deny it right away, even though they're doing like, if I opened up like Encyclopedia Britannica and I said like, what's racism? And they defined like all of the technical details of racial theory and racial science, and going back to like, and the person says, oh yes, this is exactly what I believe in. And then you're like, well, okay, well, if you believe in astrology, you're an astrologist, right? Yeah. I don't know what to say. I'm not saying that they're a bad person. I'm just saying you gotta own it, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I want people to own their labels, and then maybe you can sort of think about like, is this what you want to be? But until you can acknowledge that, we're not going to get anywhere if people just live in denial. That's the kind of toxic reality that, So it went okay. There was no blue wave, and I'm not that surprised, to be honest with you. Because this is the difference between what I was talking about, the liberal and the leftist, or the people that want change and not change, is that what the Democrats put forward were basically a return to normal.
Yeah. But I think people are happy with a return to normal.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Considering...
It's not like they're saying, well, let's see, we have an unprecedented pandemic, now is the time to do national health care, right? That didn't come up.
Right. Although that...
Or that should have come up, right?
Yeah, but
like
if
that
we
should
could
have been a big time
if we could just have less
issue.
people die, that
right?
seems like it might be
that
enough.
could have, or to have something like, oh, we have massive unemployment, let's have a work program, right? Yeah. That should have come up, right? Or, oh, we have all of these environmental issues. Instead of just going back to 2015 Paris Climate Accord, maybe we should have, a more constitutive policy. Maybe like a Green New Deal or something like that. That should have come up.
We had moved so far into shit show territory that just normalcy is good enough.
Exactly. What I'm saying is that what the Democrats put forward this doesn't solve any of the problems. All that they're saying is, we aren't crazy. Yeah. And that's it. And that's all that they have.
And that's a good enough reason.
Well.
Yeah, it's not the best. But it would be great.
No, it's a good enough reason to barely squeak a victory. Yeah. And maybe get like one or two.
As it turns out, the victory will be exactly the same electoral numbers that Trump won. But this time Biden will win the popular vote as well, 4 million 6 million.
Right, but
But 306.
Here's the reality: is that you have things like Florida, which voted for increasing the minimum wage.
Yeah, and then voted for Trump.
Yeah. Why? Because the Democrats in Florida did not vote for increasing the minimum wage. They said they were against increasing the minimum wage. Imagine if they said they were for it.
Yeah.
Imagine what would happen
if
they said they were for what people actually voted for.
Yeah.
Maybe they would win.
And then many states legalized pot, and Oregon legalized everything, heroin.
Under certain guidelines, Anyway,
right. Well, but you can't get it at the supermarket.
It's true that a lot of places legalized pot, but then the parties that were more for legalizing pot in those places were the Republicans at the end of the day. The thing is that the Democrats have this theatrics of progressivism, but it's fraudulent.
Well, the Republicans have their theatrics of economics.
It's also fraudulent.
It's completely fraudulent. Yeah.
Right, but it's just that there's this myth of people who vote Democrat to think that they stand for this sort of like these principles and values, and their candidates absolutely do not. In the same way that the Republicans, do not do what they do. Yeah. It's all a lie, and that's why when you see that this victory here, it's not really a victory. It's that
it's just a return to sanity, a return. To something.
This has always been the Democrats' game to lose, and it's just amazing that they did not lose so badly that they just handed it over to him again. I was predicting that they would, just because it would make them more money. But it looks like that they might actually get this. But it's not in any kind of way that they can get some kind of, control out of it. And even then, what would they be doing? They would be doing the same kind of austerity, neoliberal, they're really not that different. That's the thing that you have to understand, is that they're not. And when they are different, it's just at a very, very small level. And so it's stuff like Joe Biden on fracking, right? So what is his policy? Is it to ban all fracking? No. Is it to ban all fracking in public land? No. It's to have no new fracking on public land. However, those public land grants can still switch over to private, and then you can get fracking there. And so basically what it is Trump says, continue fracking, and Joe Biden just, like that. That's the difference. It's like, and then we say, oh, most progressive thing. Oh my God, look at how leftist he is. He's a socialist.
And they said he was going to lose Pennsylvania.
And then you're like, horseshit.
Yeah.
It's horse. It's the same fucking policy. Yeah. All that they do is they get up there, and then the Republicans want to see black, and he says, oh, black, and the Democrats want to see pink, and then they say, oh, purple, vote for me, and it's the same damn thing. And so it does not surprise me that it's about 50-50 every time, because it's a coin. There is no policy difference at the end of the day, right? Their idea of doing police reform is to give the police more money. Really. Let's give the police more money, more power, and more autonomy. I'm sure that will be great. Well, like it's the most and like if there was ever we have people yelling in the streets for you to not do that, like over months and months and months. It's so fucking clear that's not what the voters want. If they had just said, well, maybe I should do, like, if we had functional politics, they'd be like, well, let's see, we have people protesting daily and burning down cities wanting this. Maybe I should support that policy. Yeah. Right? Maybe. But that's not what happened. And so when we see these types of results here where we're like, oh, we don't know if Trump has lost yet, well, it's like, come on, what were you expecting? And so that's why there is no continuum there. They're different groups, right?
Yeah.
And I think that the kind of connection between that group that wants to change and the Democratic Party is severing very fast. And I have said for a long time that they should go Republican, because, well, no, it's because there's nobody at the gates. There's nobody guarding the Republican Party. Donald Trump was able to take it over.
Yeah, that's right. He did take it completely over, having none of their policies or any awareness of what their policies even were.
And I've been reading a bunch of threads of like people who voted for Republicans, and they're like, "Oh, I voted for Donald Trump because he's going to increase the minimum wage."
Yeah.
Right?
Where'd you get that? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I voted for him because he's going to lower drug prices.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I voted for him because he's going to,
end the war in the Middle East. Yeah.
He's going to reduce the Medicaid age or whatever. And they're basically talking. It said I voted for him because he has this, sort of classical leftist policies, which he doesn't have at all.
Yeah.
Right. But you have to understand is that the core of sort of 1930s socialism and leftism is the Midwest, right? Is the state that had the most socialist elected officials was Oklahoma.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Followed by Kansas, right? The bulwark of all of sort of the labor movement and socialism and stuff like that was all in that area. A lot of the riots in the 1880s was in like Kentucky, West Virginia, those areas right there. Tennessee is where like the armed militia labor people, would say we need our basically pushing socialism, right? And when FDR won in 1932, they were doing it because they were thinking that like a revolution might happen, and they were talking about the revolution happening from the Midwest, because that was a bulwark of that movement. What's the only state that has a state bank, a public bank? It's North Dakota, right? Because it was done like 1911, 1912, right? So the reddest of the red states are actually voting for Trump because they think that he is. That he supports a socialist agenda, but they've been so confused as to what that word means, and they think socialism means, NAFTA and jobs going overseas.
Yeah. They don't.
They have no idea what it means, and so they say, "Oh, I'm going to support him because of I don't know, all of these sort of like he's going to do all of these progressive things that like a Bernie Sanders or an AOC would support." So I think that what you could do, and here's my big thought, is that you have to have the actual people in the streets willing to play ball and willing to do politics. And right now they're too pure, and they need to stop that, and they need to play, the actual sort of game, and say, all right, these rubes want me to hold up a Bible, and want me to hold up a cross and a little and we want to call it like I don't know, a Christian compassion instead of socialism, right? And then they want me to like quote gospel verses and say like, well, Jesus did this and that and this and that, and so then I support Medicare for all, right? And if that's what they want to hear, then like go up on stage and do that.
Yeah.
Give me a break, right? And if it happens that you're going to be running as a Republican, then go up and do it. What we know right now is that the Democrats fought way, way harder to keep the leftists from winning the primaries than they fought against the Republicans in general. Way harder, right?
You think they fought harder to not have Bernie as a candidate than they fought against Trump?
Oh, absolutely. Right? I mean, when they in Kentucky, when they fought to get Amy McGrath on there against her Booker, right? I'm not saying Booker would have won, but
McConnell.
Right.
Yeah.
But they brought out everybody to get McGrath going. They had endorsements from everybody. But then once that primary was done, all of those people walked away because they want McConnell in there because he is, he's the boogeyman, right? And so there's a function for him to be there. But like McGrath lost by 20-something points. Just ate shit. And it's because her policy was basically the same thing the Democrats are doing, is that I'm a Republican, but I am limp-wristed about it. Right? I'm a foot-dragging version of what they want to do. On this mamby-pamby one, right? I want to, I don't know, you say you want to build 7 prisons, I want to build 5. You say that, I don't know, you want to increase the spending for the military. I do too, but I want to have more women in charge, or whatever, right? This fruity version of this with little frills and flowers on the side. But that's all they're offering, because they're not talking on other terms, right?
Yeah.
The Republicans are setting the agenda of saying, more military spending, support the police, blah, 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 blah. And then the Democrats, instead of talking about their own agenda, they're responding to it. Because they're like, oh, yes, we want to support the police with more sensitivity training. Instead of saying, no, not at all. That's not what we want to do, is actually create more jobs.
Yeah.
That's your issues. And that's the differentiating factor, right? Is that one's trying to be Coke and one's trying to be Pepsi. And that's wrong. You should allow the Republicans to be Coke while you're over here being a hamburger or whatever instead. You're something else, right? And then you could say, and then the entire country is hungry and they're tired of soda, then don't be Pepsi. Because then it'll be like, shit, man, I don't want soda.
Yeah.
But it's only Coke or Pepsi. Damn, it's really bad for me. Oh man, what am I gonna do? Right? That's what we're at right now. You got to be completely different. And then we could sort of, I think that's the real strategy, and I don't think it's going to happen soon. And it's good that we didn't get more progressives in or more leftists in right now, because nothing's ready for them. They just fail. If Bernie Sanders had won the primary and went in right now with the Congress we have, with the Supreme Courts we have, with the state houses we have, with the media we have,
he'd never be able to push.
He couldn't get anything done, right? So what if you would somehow get Congress to be, the kinds of Omar and AOCs and stuff like that? If that was a third of them or half, right? And then you had a kind of media apparatus that was like the right-wing media, but it was, the Glenn Greenwalds of the world, right? People that are who's gonna call it? All the President's Men. What's his name?
Nixon?
No. The
Bernstein, Carl Bernstein.
Woodward. Woodward and Bernstein, but back in the 70s. I'm not talking about modern, right? But I'm talking about that form of, or Julian Assange, right?
Yeah.
Solid, factual, sort of journalism that they're not, because what they do these days is there's a lot of gamesmanship that goes on, and essentially what happens is that you want to have access to the politicians in the future, so you don't want to say anything too bad about them, or else you're going to get blackballed of some sort, and you won't be able to then get your exclusive interviews later on, right? So you got to be sort of nice to them, right? And then you want to, your news segments, you can't really fill out all of them, and you want to be getting the promotional stuff from Pfizer or whatever in order to fill that stuff in. So you can't say bad things about Pfizer, or else they're going to withhold that stuff for you. And then you have to support your news broadcast based upon your advertisers. So you can't say anything bad about GE or the military or anything like that, or else they're going to, and then we're sitting here, and then what's there left to talk about? I don't know, the weather, sports, and that's what we get, right? It's crap. And so they're basically they're hamstrung from all these different directions. And then they can't actually report on any types of power relationships or on any types of meaningful things of how the world works. And then we get the starved population, because they can't get it from the news, because the news doesn't do that anymore. And so they go to these wacky conspiracy websites, and then you think it's a bunch of pedophiles that have underground caverns and like ping pong pizza and all this crazy stuff like that. But it's not like if they turned on the news, they'd see something more substantive. right?
Yeah.
They'd see a bunch of traffic accidents or whatever it is, right?
Car chases.
Crime reports, right? It's because they're hamstrung by all of these other forces at work. So there needs to be this and there are alternative media sources. They do exist, like Pacifica and stuff like that, but they're so small.
Yeah.
We're talking, a fraction of 1% of people that actually do. But, it's the same problem that NPR and PBS have, because they're part of the government and they are under the same kind of pressures as everybody else. And so maybe their journalism is a tad bit better, but at the end of the day, they have to answer to the same masters. So so it sort of prevents you from doing true journalism, which is why we have to go to the foreign journalists. We have to go to Al Jazeera and Russia Today.
That's right.
Because their masters are somebody else. So they're not being controlled by Exxon and Chevron or Monsanto. They're being controlled by Petrogas.
Yeah.
Or
worse.
or something else. But that permits them to then be truthful when they talk about America.
Yeah.
So the foreign press seems to actually do a much better job when it comes to accuracy because of that. It's just a shame that we can't really have a functional press, and that is what's going to prevent the any type of real change from happening, because all of the pillars of what needs to be there are locked up. The AM chat radio, all of that nonsense, the Rush Limbaugh style, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there's this guy I found out about just recently, a guy named something Pine. He was like the first sort of shock jock from the...
Oh, yeah, it was a television show, though.
Yeah, he was in L.A.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's it? Do you remember his name? I want to get it up. And so it's this Pine shock jock, and he was just a jerk. Joe Pine.
Yeah, Joe Pine. It was before I was in Los Angeles, but I remember hearing.
And so this is '60s.
Yeah.
And basically, he was just this mean-spirited, a faithless, nasty person.
Yeah, that was
just an awful person.
Any kind of attention works. It was a hit show, or it got big ratings. I don't know if you call it.
Well, it's true. He got paid like $200,000.
People wanted to see a train wreck.
Well,
they wanted to hate him.
Well, yeah, and he was like friends with like the American Nazi Party and the KKK, and this sort of like John Birch style stuff. And it was interesting because I found out about him because people like Rush Limbaugh says that he based his entire thing upon that, and all these right wing talking heads based it on this asshole from the '60s.
Yeah.
And as long as we have that as kind of our media, our intellects, right? Yeah. As long as people go to Hugh Hewitt for intellectual desertion.
There's something wrong with him.
Or any of those people, right? Glenn Beck or whoever those people are.
Yeah, Glenn Beck is something's wrong with him too. At least Rush Limbaugh is playing a character. He's putting on a show.
Oh yeah. And as long as that becomes the place of intellectual thought in society, we're not going to get anything done. There's so many things that just need to be unraveled and before we could have an effective Bernie-like person as president that can get a policy done wherein we have a better society.
Well, maybe next time someone will run from against the status quo from the left, and there won't maybe the Republicans who they're going to run. Mike
no, again, I say the winning strategy here is to run as a Republican.
You mean someone progressive running as a Republican?
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe that's right. It wasn't that, as you said, it wasn't that easy. It wasn't that hard to take over the Republican Party.
Right. Donald Trump took over the Republican Party.
Donald Trump just squatted and they listened to him.
And that was it. Mm-hmm. And again, the voters of the current Republican Party are the same places and demographics and sort of makeup of people that were voting for the Communist Party, the Socialists, right? Yeah. It's just that they've been gamed. Mm. So, and when it comes down to those types of issues on their ballot, they're voting for them.
Yeah.
They vote to increase the minimum wage. They vote for all that stuff, right? So when the ballot initiatives come forward, it's clear to see where the cards are at. It's just that the Democrats absolutely do not represent that. Absolutely do not. And the Republicans absolutely do not represent that either. But people have been trying to go in through the Democratic Party basically my whole life, and they've been thwarted and outflanked it from every angle, right? Yeah. It's like a moat with like alligators in front of it, right? Just chomping at anybody. But then you have these absolute, QAnon lunatics, just absolute retards coming in through the Republican Party, and they get voted in like up. And why? It's because if you have an image of like a castle and a moat and a drawbridge up, and that's the Democrats. Yeah. And then you have the Republicans, and it's like there is no castle. It's just naked people sitting at a table. Like that's how open it is. Yeah. Because these, anybody can start winning elections. It's like, no, there is no protection. So I think that is just an open gate that's just flapping in the wind, and that's why I say they need to learn how to play politics and stop being like, ew, Republican, ew, I'd never. Shut the fuck up, It's there for the taking. You got to do it.
Theory, yeah.
What we found with the past 4 years is that the people that were dedicated to the cause of sort of the neoliberal hegemony started going over to the Democratic fold, right? Yeah. Because that's the neoconservatives from the Bush era, right? Because they sort of said, in so doing that, it was just a game. Yeah. We're all on the same side, actually. Like the Lincoln Project. The Lincoln Project, yeah, fighting for the Democrats. Yeah. And they're like, and they say, oh, it's because blah blah blah. It's like, no, it's just a game. Like that's what they're saying. Like it was all fake to begin with. We're just Coke and Pepsi. That's it. Or even better than that, we're just like when you walk into the store and then you see like two products. And then you look in the back and it's the same manufacturer. Like that's what we're talking about. Sure, and then you think, and it's like a fake competition right there. And it's all the same company at the end of the day, right? It's the same holding group and like out in New York that's got both of them. And so like that, yeah. And so it's just an illusion. I think that again, go through the Republicans and we can get something real. But I don't know. What are we at right now? We are at, and plus it would really mess things up. I'd love it.
I would be all for that. Anything that destroys the Republican Party is good with me. How are we doing for time?
We got 15 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just anything that destroys the Republican Party. It's that anything that destroys that coalition, because.
Well, they're much more interested in just power and money. Well, money brings power. That's what that coalition is interested in, keeping power. They have certainly no altruistic styles and no charitable, nothing that's better for the government. It's strictly about retaining power.
And just to be clear, we're not only talking about the Republicans, we're talking about the Nancy Pelosi's of the world. And yes,
the old style of politicians,
Yes,
not
the Clintons,
not the newer. The
Chuck Schumers.
Those are all 40 politicians that have been in business for 40 years.
Right, but when we're here talking shit about the Republicans, right, those people go in that pile.
Not in the same way, but they're all been in politics for 40 years. So I wonder if people thought they were going to get something different from Donald Trump, which they did, but it was 10 times worse than just politics as usual.
Well,
they got a shit show.
it's
It's surprising.
I see. This is why I don't know. Is that I think that at the end of the day, is that Donald Trump is one of the healthiest things to happen to American democracy. And I've told you this theory before.
Won't happen again?
Well, no. It's that 4 years ago, if I had said something like, "Oh, there's a difference between left and liberals," people would think that I'm loony.
Yeah.
But now I say it, and people say, "Oh, yeah, I see that. It's clear."
Well, I think 4
I'll
years
say,
ago there wouldn't have been as big a difference between Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush, who were supposedly the leaders.
Right, there's no difference between the two.
But as despicable as he is, and as what a mess he's made of the country, Donald Trump was not one of those.
But what I'm saying is that all of these sort of abstract sociological concepts.
Well, the idea of shaking up the government, I don't object to, but I'm not sure that putting in an orangutan to throw his feces around the Oval Office.
What I'm saying is that all these abstract sociological concepts about like the precarity of work, or about social reproduction, or any of these types of things that like Ricardo would talk about, as a philosopher in the 19th century, they were all sort of heady, abstract things that you learn in graduate school, or that you'd have to read, like, Habermas or Marcuse or some of these other sort of. But the magic about Trump is he made all those things visceral and obvious. Like everybody sees it now, right? And this idea that there is like some kind of racial strata between the police and the people that they lock up, and that there's just that they seem to target black people in a very strange way. That has now been made extremely obvious to almost everybody, right? Or any of the other sort of parts of plays of power. There is no illusion anymore. He brought it into a material reality that now when we talk about, when you talk about the racism, the racist history of America, like a lot of people just seem to get it now. Because
now they've seen it.
And that's something that wouldn't have happened under Hillary Clinton.
It's not quiet. It's not.
And it wouldn't have happened under John Kasich or Marco Rubio.
He made it okay to be racist out loud.
Right. And that's why I think it's so healthy, because I think
now
that...
we know who the enemy is.
I think that, well, not only that, but just across the board, and he's shown how fake both the media is in a way that we were talking about. Not in his way.
But that wasn't his intention.
Of course it wasn't.
That's what happened, yeah.
But the idea that these are just a bunch of actors sitting in studio getting paid well in order to read off a teleprompter that's provided to them by, Saudi Aramco or whatever, and that they're just like, reading whatever the Wall Street brokers are telling them to say. Like, people take that as a given now. They say, okay, it's just all nonsense, right? But of course, he was trying to say that, people that were factually reporting his tax records were lying. And that's not true, right? But...
right, we were post-truth for 4 years.
But what I'm saying is that, if that didn't happen, I think that this kind of, Network, right, that classic movie from the 70s, is that this moment wouldn't be there. Now, the question is, will everybody go back to sleep? Right?
Well, I think everyone's going to go on vacation for a year or two, and then let's see what happens.
Like,
the midterms
if Biden comes back, and if he somehow gets elected, are people going to be, I can just stop paying attention now?
Well, he is going to be elected. The math isn't there for as much as...
I'm not going to predict right now. Let's just go on. Yeah. So, the question is, are people going to continue to sort of... I don't know, because...
Under Biden? I think people will stop paying attention for a little while.
Trump did this uncovery process to everything.
When Biden takes office, people will just stop paying attention for a year. People will not even want to hear about politics for a while. I think that's it. It's been such a shit show. Fine, we have somebody, even though he's grandpa, we have somebody there babysitting. Let him do it for a while. I don't want to worry about it. And maybe in about 2 years, when the midterms come, people will tune in again.
Yeah.
But it'll be a pleasure to not have the top story every day that the president said something insane, that he insulted someone or called people names or took us out of some other safe
I mean,
harbor
maybe it would be
fired doctors.
Hopefully, he doesn't go away, because I think that
he may really go away to prison. Yeah.
I think that his process of discovery for, sure, he has a cult, and a very dangerous cult behind him.
You're giving him credit as if any of this was thought out.
No, but I'm not.
It's not his process of discovery. It's our process of discovery.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
But he makes it obvious.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
It basically, here's the difference between the two, is that we had people in suits being villains to us before, and he comes in twirling a mustache, doing a cackle with a cape and a black hat on, and saying, I'm going to steal from all, and then we're like, oh, maybe those people are villains, right? And like, people get it, whereas beforehand they were fooled by the theater, by all the fluff, all the propaganda, and now people see much clearer how the cards are laid out. So I think that, again, this is my theory, that even if Trump had won again, I think that process would continue. And
I think that would have been the end of democracy. I think
know.
him on you have to. Yes, I agree with what happened, but that wasn't his intention. His intention is to grab power, and he just was not a politician or smart enough, or he's insane.
I think that it might have been.
We all know about
I think it might have been
after 4 more years of unchecked power. I think we really would be down a really bad road.
I think it would have been the end of the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
which would have been
It's
great.
the end of democracy.
I don't think
the end
so.
of democracy.
I don't think so.
Well, we're no longer. The United States is no longer considered the leader of the free world. That's
of course not.
oddly Germany now.
Yeah. Well, that's the funniest thing, is that he basically came in and forfeited all of the. When they say USA is number one, like all of our number one positions, he just gave away.
Yeah.
Which is so funny.
We're no longer setting the tone for the rest of the world.
No.
And we're certainly not in moral authority for the rest of the world.
No. It's okay. And Joe Biden isn't going to get us there.
Well, he's going to get us back a little bit. He's going to get us so that we don't have to worry about it for a little while.
Right, but like if
we don't have to, nobody has to worry that he didn't get Diet Coke, so he blew up North Korea.
But what I'm saying is that if you had a more boring politician in there, like somebody, I don't know,
Jeb Bush.
Well, yeah, Jeb Bush, fine, right? Yeah, Jeb Bush, we'd be fine.
Yeah, but we don't have Jeb Bush. We have Donald Trump.
Right, or any of those boring
John Kasich,
Marco Rubio, or any of those people, right? Even Mitt Romney.
Even Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney would be great right now. That would be fantastic, right?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with him, but I don't agree with the Democrats either. Yeah. So it's like, I think that I would prefer to have a Mitt Romney over Joe Biden.
Really?
Oh yeah.
You prefer Mitt Romney? Why is that?
Joe Biden is gone. He's gone.
I disagree with that. Yeah.
He's not.
But what about social issues? What about marriage equality or right to abortion, or what about the Voting Rights Act? What about?
Here's what's going to happen with Joe Biden, is that he's going to execute almost zero executive power, and it's going to be his handlers and
but his handlers will be experts. And the handlers will toe they'll toe the Democratic line. But I'd rather have the Democratic line towed than the
That's true. When Obama came in
too.
and he bailed out Wall Street, but not the working class, right? And basically, and sent none of them to prison.
Yeah.
Right. He had this wonderful mandate to do the most obvious thing in the world.
Yeah.
To bail out the working class and not like give taxpayer money so that hedge funds could give away as bonuses.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it.
A lot of that stuff was still done under Bush. That wasn't that was the tail end of the Bush. The TARP Act was Bush, not Trump, but not Obama. But nobody was prosecuted. Nobody was prosecuted at all ever.
No, and then he decided not to prosecute Bush for his war crimes or anything like that.
Yeah.
But what he did do is prosecute like an untold number of journalists.
Yeah.
And what he did do was like he prosecuted an untold number of immigrants, right? Like those people got prosecuted left and right. Whistleblowers got prosecuted, just not the people in power. It's nonsense, right? And we're supposed to do this, change and all of his flowery words. It's all nonsense, and we all know it. That's what the difference is between the left and liberal. Now, what I said beforehand is that when the Democrats are doing this method that they did last time, they almost always lose.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they lost when they tried it with Mondale, when they tried it with Dukakis. The only reason they won was in '92 was because Ross Perot was running, right? And they almost lost in '96 again. They lost in 2000. They lost in 2004 with Kerry. And then 2008. 2008.
Keep in mind that all of these things you've mentioned, the Democrats won the popular vote.
The only reason that they lost in 2008, or the only reason they won in 2008, is because Obama painted himself as a leftist going in.
Well, the Republicans baited Obama as a leftist,
right?
Thinking that was.
But he was a Clinton neoliberal with darker skin. That's all he was.
Yeah.
You go back to even Adlai Stevenson in '52 and '56 when they lost there, and then
people thought he was boring, and how boring must he have been? Because keep in mind the president was Dwight Eisenhower,
right?
And they said Adlai Stevenson was boring.
Or Al Smith in 1928, or you have, you go back as far as you can, and their tactic of running these mamby-pamby, a conservative lighter touch is a failed strategy. It's never worked.
But it does work. It always gets the most votes.
What do you mean?
Well, Gore won, Hillary won in the most votes category, and Biden won with the most votes.
Right, but when they have somebody who has an actual policy and actual politics, like FDR, he wins the president 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
That's what you need to do.
Right. He was a progressive.
That's the strategy.
Yeah.
That's clearly the winning strategy.
Yeah.
But they just couldn't do it again.
Yeah.
And they just haven't tried that again. And it's ridiculous. Anyway, that's our time.
All right.
So there's a...
Good, because I had one more second. Is it off now?
Not yet. You're still on.